How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White with White Light Astrology, giving you guys your December horoscope for Pisces. So, before I begin, I wanted to talk about, because I forgot to mention this for the past couple horoscopes that I've been doing, you want to definitely watch this from both your sun and your rising. I always recommend watching it from your rising, because that's how I kind of like write these horoscopes. I put Pisces as the first sign, and then we kind of look at, where the planets are going to be house-wise from there. So, you do want to watch from your sun sign. I always watch both, but I definitely recommend making sure you watch this from your rising sign. So, to go forward, talking to both Pisces, sun, and risings. How's it going, guys? Just to kind of give a quick overview over the month. This month is going to, I think, bring a lot more of the changes in more of a literal way. I think the changes that you've been kind of going through with that Venus retrograde in your 9th house, I think these types of changes are really going to start to show up in like a literal manifestation. You also have Mars going through your 1st house this month too, so I think there's going to be a lot of changes that you're going to have to make that are going to actually result really big when they kind of manifest into your, world and into your arena, because, I mean, we have Jupiter and Sag in your 10th, we have Mercury doing stuff up there too. So, yeah, I guess let's kind of go into it. Starting off on December 1st, we have quite a few things going on, and we do have Mercury retrograding back into Scorpio. So as Mercury went into your 10th house into Sagittarius, where, Mercury was, trying to get things done either, in your career or in your vocation, or something was happening with your boss. The 10th house isn't always about your career. It always isn't about, your public vocation and all that big stuff. The 10th house is just the public view. It's the public eye. The 10th house is, kind of like where everything kind of accumulates. I cannot speak right now. Mercury's retrograde in my 1st house, but the 10th house has a lot to do with the public eye, has a lot to do with things manifesting into themselves, things, happening in your career as well, and things changing and things going on like that. But the 10th house is kind of like up for display. It's up for view for the whole world to see. So when I say, things could definitely manifest in that arena, it could definitely look a couple ways like that. So moving forward, Mercury's been retrograding in your 10th house of Sagittarius. You've been kind of questioning and looking at different things as to, what you want to do, what you want to explore within that terms. But as Mercury dips back into Scorpio, this is when you're going to get reminded and you're going to get very clear of, what Mercury's transit through Scorpio last time was. I mean, we've had Venus retrograde through Scorpio. We've had Jupiter going through Scorpio for you guys. You've been really bringing up and digging up a lot of the dirt and really understanding what you believe and why you believe it. Learning, what you need to let go and what you want to hold on to, what you need to possess. And so as Mercury retrogrades from your 10th to your 9th, I think this is going to become extremely clear for you guys, what direction you want to take, what you actually believe in, and putting that mindset on things when it comes to, things in your career. Because as Mercury retrogrades back into Scorpio, all of that confusion, all of that, kind of insanity that Mercury retrograde has been bringing, as it goes back into Scorpio into your 9th house, it's going to become very clear. It's going to become very specific. It's going to be very concise. It's going to be very truth-oriented. And when we're talking about the 9th house of your spirituality, your beliefs, foreign relations, stuff like that, as Mercury goes back into there, I think this is when you're going to start really, getting that whole mind, soul connection going again, getting really clear about what you're really believing, what your mindset is, being shaped around when it comes to your beliefs. And then as Mercury goes direct later on, which we'll talk about, then he'll go back into your 10th house, and that's when you could start tackling that a little bit more. So on December 1st as well, we have Mars squaring the Sun at 9 degrees. And so Mars is now in your 1st house. Mars has been in your 12th house for a long time, and that must have been hell. But now that Mars is in this 1st house area where we're talking about who you are, your personality, your sense of self, it really is you, even on like a physical level. As Mars goes through this part of your house where Mars is about, severing, cutting, he's about action, he's about, putting things, pedal to the metal. As Mars goes through Pisces, where Pisces isn't necessarily a Mars sign, it's got a little bit of triplicity rulership because, Mars also rules Scorpio. However, Mars in Pisces is really, finding his way. He's not necessarily focused on his action or what he can do. He's more focused on what he can trust, what he can kind of believe, and kind of trusting more of his instinct, trusting more of his intuition, and letting that guide him, letting something higher guide him towards, on his journey. So as Mars goes through your 1st house, this is going to be a really big time where you guys are starting to learn how to put yourself into different places, putting that change that you need to put onto yourself. you know, Mars severs, Mars cuts, Mars, you know, inflammates. So you may find yourself, you know, a little bit more agitated, a little bit more irritated. But what Mars is trying to really say is that there's a change that you need to actually take action on when it comes to your sense of self, you know, where you're really directing your energy and where you're really focusing that energy. And the biggest thing about this Mars in your first house is that it's squaring your, the sun at 9 degrees. So we just had the Mars-Sun opposition this summer with the Mars retrograde, and now as the Mars squares the sun, as it starts to get closer and closer to the Mars-Sun conjunction, Mars is starting to, he went through the battle. He understood what he had to let go of and what he went through. That's why we had all these eclipses. But as Mars is in Pisces, there's a few other things that he still has to kind of learn, that he still has to kind of figure out. His mission isn't done yet, and this is kind of bringing up that problem. And as the sun's in your 10th house in Sagittarius, this is highlighting career stuff, this is highlighting bigger stuff. So it really is about applying that change that you know is bound to happen, that you know is going to blossom, but it's about applying that. And it could be a little bit hard, it's going to be a little bit frustrating, but finding your way is all about trusting your intuition, being able to call, you know, the shots as they happen. Don't look too far ahead in the future, and don't look back in the past. Be right in the present moment, and I think that's going to really clear you guys up. I mean, we're still talking about December 1st. Excuse me. Venus is also going to oppose Uranus at 29 degrees, Libra and Aries. And as Uranus is dipped back into Aries, into your second house, where finances and material possessions are kind of, you know, once again, you know, woo, everywhere. It's kind of like an explosive energy. Venus is in your 8th house in Libra, where she's direct, she's in her domicile. And that last opposition is really going to be about, okay, what do you need to possess within yourself? How can you use your possessions? What do you need to liberate yourself from? And what do you need to value when it comes to other people and their resources? This could be, you know, like a friend really helping you out if you lost something or something went crazy. You know, this is Venus and Libra in your 8th house. Like, you know, friends could be there to help you. Other people can be there for other resources to give to you. However, as Venus opposes Uranus, I think on a personal level, this is really going to be about taking that, not necessarily the bad stuff, but the 8th house is a very weird and kind of scary place, and Venus is pretty strong in Libra. And so when you have a very strong Venus in a very scary house, I think this is going to be about not showing that fear, not showing that, not necessarily like not showing it as in like hiding it or containing it, but knowing that you have the capabilities to make this a smooth ride. You have the ability to apply yourself in a way to where you can get this handled and done with grace. It's kind of like falling in style in a sense. So that's going to be really good. And then on December 2nd, as we move forward, we have Venus going back into Scorpio. So as Venus is direct now in Libra, she moves forward into Scorpio, where she's back in your 9th house. She's still in shadow. She's still thinking about, you know, with Venus going into that 9th house area, or Scorpio on your chart, Venus is getting very, you know, raw and real and like guttural. Like Venus is really focused on more of the truth, more of the raw, grainy stuff, and Venus is really into it. And as she's in her she's in your 9th house, where we're talking about your beliefs, your sense of spirituality, this is going to be a big time to really value those specific things. You know, you guys are Pisces. Sometimes things can be unclear. Sometimes things are just, you know, so clear and everything's just happening so fast. Venus and Scorpio wants you to have more belief in that, being able to value the drive, value the what's the word I'm looking for? I'm probably going to say this so wrong, but specificity, like the specifics of it. As Venus is in Scorpio in there, you got to really believe on this, on the raw, real stuff that makes you, that makes, you know, the world make sense. And as Venus goes through Scorpio, she's back at it again. You know, she got recharged in Libra. I think this is going to be a big time to really like apply yourself, really focus and really feel something. You know, don't be afraid to, I don't want to say get angry or, you know, get frustrated, but really have some passion in this. And I think that's going to really help you guys. Then moving on, nothing really happens for a minute until December 7th, which, let me pull up this chart real quick. December 7th, we have Mars conjuncting Neptune. And as we talked about with Mars going through Pisces, you know, you're having to apply those changes to yourself, really apply yourself. Mars conjuncting Neptune is taking off the facade, taking off the, the fogginess, and bringing a lot of harsh, I don't want to say reality like Saturn, but Mars is very agile. Mars can kind of hurt sometimes. And as Mars is on Neptune, and Neptune's in your guys' first house, where sorry, like that's just, you got to ride that wave for a little while. As Neptune's going through Pisces, kind of making things very, sacred and intuitive and spiritual, but also very confusing, very dualistic. Mars is going to go right over Neptune in your guys' first house and be like, hey, this is what you need to be clear on. This is what's going to make sense. This is going to be kind of like, oh, all of it starts to make sense and be clear, but it's not necessarily going to be like a, oh my gosh, everything makes sense and everything's clear. It's like, oh shit, everything's clear now. Now I know what I need to apply myself on. Now I know where to move forward with. Now I know how to trust my intuition. Now I know how to work with my energy. So that's going to be really big. On the 7th as well, we have the new moon in Sagittarius. So as we have this new moon in Sag in your guys' 10th house, we're talking about your career, we're talking about your public vocation, we're talking about just things manifesting really into the reality. This is a big time to set a new intention on what you're kind of doing in your career. What are you kind of doing as far as work goes? What do you want to be recognized as? And where is that going? This is going to be a really refreshing energy around, your career and stuff. Things could have started back in, May when we had the full moon in Sagittarius. This is kind of wrapping all of that stuff up. This new moon really is just about kind of cleaning up your beliefs, cleaning up what you think is supposed to be, and really just having a lot more clarity and a lot more vision when it comes to terms of your career and it comes to things, being manifested in your reality. Moving forward on the 7th still, we have Mercury going direct. And as Mercury goes direct, this is why I said the clarity and, the vision is Mercury direct in Scorpio is going to be like, it's kind of like, Aries is like the military soldier, Scorpio is the sniper, and Mercury direct in Scorpio is like, you have the right shot, you have the clearing, you have the go, take the shot, understand it. You got to believe in it though, because this is your 9th house and you got to be raw and you got to be real about it and you got to be clear. And sometimes that can be hard, Pisces, I understand. However, the sense of clarity you need to get is definitely going to come from that raw, emotional, intuitive space. Just believe it. And then moving forward, this isn't a big deal, but on December 9th, Chiron is going direct, which is cool because Chiron's been in your first house forever, and I'm sure Chiron in your second house has been pretty cool. But as Chiron is retrograded back into Pisces, bringing a lot more, it's not going to be super immediate, but bringing a lot more of a deeper essence of healing with all of this stuff. As that goes direct, it's kind of like, all right, now that you've learned what you've learned, it's time to apply what you've learned. So that's going to be a good thing. Then for a couple days, we don't have too much more going on until December 12th. We have Mercury then going into Sagittarius, where, Mercury was retrograde, he was back in your 9th house, he was direct, he's moving forward, he's cleared, he's sharp, he's precise, he's on it, he sees it all. As Mercury goes back into Sagittarius, this is when it kind of comes down to, okay, how does this really going to look like? Where do I really want to apply my mindset? What do I really want to think about? And, Mercury and Sag is going to want you to go up and up and up and up and kind of be expansive, kind of be a little bit overwhelming. But Mercury and Sagittarius is also kind of, can handle the fast-pacedness sometimes. So as Mercury went direct in Scorpio and it's clear about its vision, it's about going on that path now. And this is in terms of, making those changes to the public that you want to see, making those bigger life changes. We're talking about the 10th and the first house here. And once, Mercury starts picking up, starts moving forward in Sagittarius, this is about really just going on that trail, choosing into that event. And as Mercury goes through Sagittarius into 10th house, this is, focusing more on your career, focusing more on your job, focusing on more on what you want to build for yourself. So that's all good stuff. And then on December 17th, then we have Venus leaving shadow. So this is going to be good for everyone, but as Venus leaves shadow out of your 9th house, after you kind of had to learn, what are the bad things that you believe about yourself, realizing that you can make the change and that there's support there for you, even though it looks scary, and being able to move forward with clarity, with precision, knowing what you value. That's what that whole Venus retrograde was about for you guys. I know that was a little quick, but as Venus now leaves shadow, Venus is on her own now. She's going into more unexplored territory. I mean, don't get me wrong, she goes here all the time, but as Venus goes through this part, Venus has to be strong. Venus has to be resilient. Venus has got to, it's kind of like, when a bear comes to you and you're scared, and instead of acting scared, you got to roar and kind of go crazy with it, and then that will scare the bear. That's Venus in Scorpio. That's what you're going to be kind of going for, but you got to have to believe it. You're going to have to put faith in it. You're going to have to trust it, and you're going to find yourself more called out to find, more of your spiritual self, more of your spiritual intuition, really getting down and deep into that stuff during this time. So do it. Then On December 20th, Venus will then trine Neptune, and I think this is when more of that sense of like, whoa, this is making sense, whoa, this is real, whoa, this is manifesting into my life on very weird, you know, Pisces emotional scales. Once Venus, you know, trines Neptune in your first house and your ninth house, I think this is when a lot of it's going to come in a more of a spiritual message. And if you guys watch my videos, you know I'm not super, you know, big on that stuff, but I think this is a really big deal for you guys just because of what Venus has been doing. So don't be surprised if, you know, on December 20th, things just kind of like, oh, here I am. This makes sense. Then moving forward, we have Mercury conjuncting Neptune at 9 degrees. The next day, on December 21st, Mercury conjuncting Jupiter at 9 degrees Sag. This is bringing hope. This is bringing opportunity. This is bringing gifts. This is bringing words of news from your job, from your career, or from, you know, wherever it's going to come from. This is really good stuff. This Mercury is now being blessed with Jupiter's presence and all his gifts because Mercury had to, you know, he kind of messed up, but he got his shit straight in Scorpio. Now he's flying forward. So this is good stuff. Then on December 22nd, the next day, we have the sun going into Capricorn. We have the full moon in Cancer. We have the Saturn-Pluto conjunction beginning. This is a big deal too, because as the Saturn-Pluto conjunction begins, this is going to bring a very big presence. It's going to be very slight because it's only at 10-degree orb, but I think the sun's ingress into Capricorn is going to be like, whoa. And for you guys, this is going to be in your 11th and 5th house arena. As the sun goes into Capricorn, the moon goes into Cancer, into your 5th house, and we have that full moon in Cancer. This is going to be bringing up about not only what you want, but what you need and how you need to protect that. This is going to deal with, you know, your children if you've got kids. This is going to deal with your art. This is going to deal with really, you know, the things that you really like to enjoy. Creation, you know, stuff like that. So as the full moon in Cancer happens, this is going to be about wanting to protect that, wanting to trust that, wanting to feed that and nurture that. And so as we have this full moon and the sun goes into Capricorn, once, you know, this is going to be in your 11th house of your friends, your associates, you know, big groups of people. This is going to be about, okay, you know, maybe things are a little bit rigid on the outside. Maybe things are starting to become very, you know, you're going to be more focused on being more with people and trying to connect yourself, depending on where your Saturn is, of course. But Saturn's in the 11th house, in your 11th house in Capricorn. Like, networks are, you know, going if they're there, they're limited, but they're strong. It's not necessarily you got like, you know, a whole bunch of group of friends, but the ones that you do have are very powerful. And so as the sun goes into there, how can you, what's the best way to put it? Put yourself in a position to where you're getting what you need and you're getting what you want. You're getting what needs to be nurtured in you. This is going to be a lot of realizing that. Then the last couple days of December, we have December 24th, Mercury leaves shadow, squares Neptune again, thank God. So Mercury will be out of shadow. Mercury's going to square Neptune again. So it's kind of like, okay, like now that we're not so much in the fantasy land stuff, things are going to be a lot more like realistic. It's going to be still easy for Mercury to get overwhelmed in Sagittarius, but as it squares Neptune, just make sure you're being clear. Like I've been saying, don't go over the edge with stuff. Don't get ahead of yourself. Take things one step at a time as you choose this path. Just realize it's not always going to be perfect and just realize you're going to learn things on the way. Then on December 29th, Mars is going to conjunct Chiron. Cool. I think that's going to be a lot of like really getting yourself away from all that pain and that suffering and really being like, okay, I'm ready to start to move forward on this healing stuff now. I'm kind of getting over it. And then literally on December 31st, moving into actually New Year's, we have the Sun-Saturn conjunction and we have Mars going into Aries, which is going to just kickstart a whole new year right off the bat. So with that being said, I guess to wrap everything up, my Jerry's final thoughts. I think this month is really going to be about realizing that truth and having the bravery and having the courage and having the foresight, having the intuitive connection to actually take action on those changes that you know that you want to see manifest. They will manifest as long as you can have that focus, you can have that clarity, you can have that sense of direction and action. And so that's what I got for you guys this month. Hope you enjoy December. Gonna be an interesting Christmas. We're gonna go into a really crazy new year. So take this, it's like, you know, new year, new you now. That's gonna be a good way to put it. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you so much for sharing, liking, commenting, subscribing. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you go through in the comments. And I'll be seeing you guys for, you know, next month's horoscope or whatever.